Hey everyone. Hello everyone. A moment of your time. We'll start shortly. It's such a pleasure to have you all here on our meetup. And my name is Philip. I'll be guiding you through tonight. We have two speakers scheduled. Both are very interesting, and I have a chance to speak to both of them before the event, and the topics are so interesting. I'm looking very much for hearing them. Anyway, the microphone doesn't seem to be working, but that's just that's for the stream people, so don't worry about it. If you will have any questions, please hold them until the end of the presentations, when we will have a short questions and answers thing. And also, if you are on the stream, do not hesitate to write the question in the messages, and we'll be going through them afterwards. So, without further ado, we have Braňo here from Applifting, who will be speaking about UX for Japanese markets.
Thank you. UX for Japanese market. How to start? Let's talk about the application. The application was a custom reservation system based on Shopify. So imagine something like you have a lot of rental spaces, such as Airbnb, and you would like to have a custom website. Yeah, if it works. So this would be a landing page. You are listing some of your spaces. I have some additional information about it. Here you are listing your spaces you would like to offer to your customers. And then you have your detail with some info, equipment location, some reviews, precautions, okay, whatever. Like here is the most important part we've been doing. We've been doing this reservation system, which was tied to Japanese market. I will show you some interesting parts there right here. It's based on Shopify. Then you have custom Shopify theme we've been doing. And reservation plugin that looks something like this, like whatever, okay. You have some settings. You have landing page. You would like to present your rental spaces. We will jump directly here. Like, what was the problem there? Like, if you imagine typical Japanese user, you kind of can't, because it's quite different how they behave, and I will show you what I mean. The challenge was that you kind of like design for users you can't imagine. Like if you take, let's say, your typical user, we are kind of like projecting ourselves to that role, so we kind of think about how we behave. And it could work in your culture, but it is far different in other cultures. So assumptions are really dangerous here. Solution, there's no solution to that. But how we can fight this? We've done some competitive analysis. Here is on the left, you could see like the typical applications for Japanese market. The interesting part there is that they are using kind of really different approach to make the reservations. Here you could see like these weird symbols. These are for the availability at the given day, and that's like one of the differences we found, that the Japanese market works in a little bit different manner, in a way that you are booking for hours. So they have something like, the use case is like photo shooting, or you want to have a party. In Japan, you could do that for 2 hours, like whatever. And yeah, these are for the availability. So this is like, okay, this is 100% full the given day. This is like 80% full. This is like, I don't know, a little bit less. And then you could show something like this. And they are pretty used to use these symbols. It's actually also like in the different app they have. And the another thing is that, as I said, like they are listing it in hours. You are giving some range because the lower range is like when you are doing multiple hours. Yeah, and then we needed to create some custom reservation system in a way that you could pick like 2.5 a day. That was like requirement for that market. So you have the slider to see. Yeah, it's hard to see there, but like somewhere around here are the marks. I have it in my presentation that shows it's taken. So we would like to visualize what you can pick or don't. Yeah, then we have some differences regarding the colors. So you might notice that the design was kind of like in the pastel colors, a little bit weird in our culture. It's perfectly fine in Japanese culture, actually, to have this kind of colors. And this illustrates the meaning across the cultures. So you could pick, for instance, I don't know, where is the Japan? It's the B, right? And you could see that the purple one is here at 84, is the last one, is the wisdom. So you could kind of like accommodate for the culture you are designing with such a chart. And then like when you see what they use, it's kind of weird, like it's really crowded, right? But it kind of like works for them. They want to have a lot of, lot of things together. They kind of like over customize their designs in a way that like suitable for the Japanese because they don't like to communicate much. So they kind of like prefer to click more and have like more content, which is like weird, but like okay. What we've done beyond competitive analysis? So there were some interviews. Mostly we've done just interview with the client, but actually it was really helpful because if you are the Japanese, you kind of like really know your culture better than the designer itself. And like in Western culture, or let's say in Czech Republic, we could really like see some things. Yeah, better test it, right? But well, we could derive some stuff, have the best practices derived from the observations. And you can't actually do that much in other cultures. You just need to rely on somebody saying like, yeah, this is not right here. And then you could do the competitive analysis and find, yeah, that guy was right. Like they really use the symbols for marking the capacity of the given day, which is like weird, but it works. Then we've done some user journeys just to clarify that. And the last thing we didn't do, but hopefully we will do, is the user testing. We will jump directly to the second section. And we'll talk about translations in UI. Like, it really isn't a problem if the site in which you are designing, it was English here, has more text or is more like expensive than the one you are translating to, which was Japanese. It was quite a luck to have it like this, but if you do it another way, it will be breaking your layout. So just keep in mind, like, okay, when you are designing, pick the language which is like more condensed. Sorry, the other way around, the one that expands and you can translate to the more condensed one. I was trying to do some Figma components, which was like really painful because I would need to store the two languages there. There's not much things you could do, but one of them is using translation plugins. This way you don't need to store your translations because you will just select the whole design and you could translate that directly to the end of the language. the problem here was that nobody ever built the translation plugin that would work. So I kind of tried that, tried like 5 of them, all reached the limit of not working at some point because like they are connected to some API and you need to pay that. And I tried to pay, but it didn't work either. So just a little bit of a business opportunity, if you wish, because like this is like really painful to keep, to be keeping like 2 components in different languages. And there's cross-cultural communication. Yeah, so commonly we have like 2 channels in Slack. So since we are agency, we have the Slack channel for client and our Slack channel where we are communicating internal stuff, but then we needed to have the translations. The deal here was that kinda the Japanese client wasn't able to speak in English, so we've communicated in Japanese all the time. So everything that was in our official channel was then translated to the channel with the translation so we could have it. There was some workaround with some plugin. It didn't work neither. So we just like pasted it all the time, but it was the best we could do. At least we have something. Yeah, and Japanese communication, like that's the whole another topic. Like they're like very polite, and it means just, and I will show you like later how they apply to the another cultures. But you kind of like, if they say like something is a little bit wrong, it could be like really wrong. So you just need to like catch that. Like we are way more critical than the Japanese, so they are like pretty sensitive to the feedback. So just keeping in mind that the Eastern cultures are a little bit more sensitive about this. And the other thing, which we were still thinking that it's pretty bad, was oversharing. But at the end, like if you see all the things that client's business is doing, and then you feel like you're really overwhelmed by all the things, at some point in the future, you will really appreciate you have it. Like we run to some issues like knowing that we need to know something, and we had at our heads like, yeah, it was there, so we found it, and we really appreciate the oversharing. So I think like it's quite a good communication practice that if you have a business and have someone to do something, like it's kind of good to share these things and to know that these people can work with it. Then we have the individualist versus collectivist, which applies actually to the whole culture, and that Western cultures are way more individualist. So like we are way much independent, rely on ourselves, and the collectivist one is more tending to be more traditional and like keeping themselves like, you know, at the chains, or how would I say it? So they have like some barriers of, you know, doing something because it wouldn't be good to see them in a bad light, let's say. So, and then you have Culture Map, which is the book by Erin Meyer, which shows how different cultures behave on the different scales. This one is pretty interesting, especially for Japanese, because you could see like they are always like from the other side of where we are. Like, okay, so we could, you know, kind of stereotypize, whatever, and say like we are like Germany or UK, or you know, like just take some EU country, and then you realize that Japan, UK, Japan is always on the other side, almost always. Yeah, here is the code for this application. It's paid, but it's really worth it. I check it sometimes and find some useful info. yeah, and this is the book. I can really recommend it. It's done specifically for the salespeople traveling through the world to kind of accustom to the culture they are doing business with. But it also really applies to the design, so you could know like what people expect and how would they behave in different situations. That's all basically. It was very fast.
Thanks, Braňo, for the really quick presentation. Does anyone have any questions? Right.
Thanks. How does it happen that you land your hands on a client who's from Japan and doesn't speak English?
Okay. So we have some kind of friend that's living in Japan that is originally from Czech, and that is the friend of our client. So kind of like weird way to get connected, but yeah, like at the end, it's really surprised that like everything like worked it out. Just to realize the context, like the communication was obviously the problem, and we had the initial meeting, which was held by the translator from Japanese to English, and then like we realized that okay, that's quite like expensive to have such meetings, and then we decided like okay, could it be done asynchronously? And we've tried, and it really worked. Like I didn't expect it, but yeah, like we had just the initial meeting, and now we are working just remotely on the Slack.
Thanks.
So you said that the main problem was that you don't know your users. So I was wondering, have you run any initial user testing or user research to understand like what the user wants before you jump into the solutions?
Yeah, we were trying to, just quick answer, we didn't run any user testing or just like some kind of like initial testing. We've done a bunch of competitive analysis, as I shown, and also I was reading about like similar applications and stuff like how does it work. It wasn't quite the new thing, I would say, on the market. There's already something existing, and yeah, like there's always a difference, so it should be like tested. But I would say that risk associated with it wasn't such high because of that. We are basically just taking the solution that is already on the market and making it custom. So these people could have their custom website if they have like, let's say, 20 rental spaces and they don't want to be listed or Airbnb to just like fall somewhere below the line of visibility. So they are like willing to invest in such a solution. But beyond that, like everything is also already existing on the market.
Thanks. Any more questions? Right.
Hey, did you build it from scratch, or was it just like modifying already existing solution?
So the component is the reservation components were roughly inspired by the how the Japanese systems works, and also by such things as Airbnb. So yeah, we've built it by ourselves, but kind of like it's a bunch of things connected together basically. Okay. And also like with the broader ecosystem, like I mentioned that Shopify, obviously we didn't make Shopify, but we made a reservation plugin for that because it just doesn't support anything beyond, the normal buying of goods basically.
Okay, thanks. Any more questions? Right. Right at the back.
I would like to ask, did you learn some Japanese words throughout the process?
Well, good one, I didn't. What I can say, I didn't mention it, but You know the name of the weeks in Japan? That's weird because like their name of the weeks are elements. You know, you have the fire, or sorry, not weeks, days. So you have the fire day, you have the water day, you have the money day, actually.
Yeah, most important element. Anyway, any more questions? No, I believe that there are no questions on the stream, so I think thank you very much for your time, Braňo.
Thank you.
Okay, it's time for the second presentation for tonight, which is by Sergio, a proud product designer from Oaks Lab. So Sergio, take it away.
Okay, where to start? Thank you so much for the invitation. It is a pleasure to be today with all of you, so many known faces in the room, so that is great. So when you guys first approached us, I kind of volunteered myself to talk about some learnings and some stuff that I was, well, basically reflecting on these years of learning and try to write them down and prepare this presentation for all of you so I can share some of the, well, things that actually helped me to get to where I am nowadays, or right now even. How many designers are in the room, by the way? So many of them. Cool. How many designers know code? Okay, that's pretty decent. I would say a solid 1%, yeah, even 2. I mean, that is pretty common. It's probably the one, well, the goal of this topic or of this presentation is to actually encourage all designers in the room to learn some code. It's going to actually make us better designers and understanding, you know, the issues of our colleagues engineers deal with our designs, actually. You know, it really adds a lot of value to our profile. So before, you know, get in the topic, I'm going to present myself like real quick. I'm originally from northwest coast of Spain. I enjoy nature. This is me farming, milking a goat. And pineapple pizza triggers me a lot. So don't do that. Some minor things. So I come from advertising and design. Actually, I'm one of many designers that transition from traditional design to product. I worked for agencies almost since ever. And I also worked for some known companies like Energy of Portugal, Lego, HBO, Microsoft, and even NASDAQ more recently. I spent 5 years in Prague, and I joined Oaks Lab just like 2021, last year. I would like to actually, for those who don't know Oaks Lab, explain you a little bit what we do. We are a development product agency, as our slogan says. We partner with founders. Oh, well, I'm going to just read it. Oaks Lab is a startup technology partner that empowers innovators to improve life in the world. Beautiful. Founders partner with us, and us with them, to build their products and scale their teams. Beautiful vision, and I fully agree with that. I think that that's what we are doing. And just for you to know, in the last 5 years, Oaks Lab completed over 30 projects and grew a team of 70 industry experts, which is pretty cool. What we do, designers at Oaks Lab. So we are what they call the unicorns, because we go from UX research, we go from UI, and all the way to almost like front-end development. We do really touch a lot of, you know, the whole process. That comes with pros and comes with cons as well. We are aware of that, and that's why we have such a great team where every one of us is adding something different to to the department and also to the company. Now that you know a little bit about me and blah, 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 I'm going to tell you what is this going to be about. So it's, in short, about processes. Just to give you a bit of context about some processes that you might heard of, some processes that you might use, and then how really designers fit into the equation. Because most of the time we are on the side, and that's why, you know, coming back to the cover, for us to actually be loud on what we do, I think it will be interesting to learn a little bit of, you know, the technical side of things. My hope with this talk is to empower you, designers in the room, and everyone interested to play an even more active role in the product development process, reflecting on some of the typical pains and frustrations we go through on a daily basis, I would say. So, next, introduction. As I was telling you, I'm gonna be talking a little bit about processes, and in this part of the talk, let's say, I'm gonna like take you on a journey through the most common like frameworks out there. The first one, another round, who knows waterfall? Who works on waterfall? Cool. All right, yeah. Because we do. We actually work on waterfall. It is, you know, very cool to say, yeah, we do Scrum and stuff. But for real, waterfall is like the basis. It's almost the foundation of the project, if you think about it. A bit of, let's say, background of this is 1970. It's almost the beginning of the software industry as we know it nowadays. And well, if you all heard about waterfall, I'm not going to tell you anything new, but as you know, the scope of work is divided into stages. Any of these stages are dependent on each other, and you cannot plan without feasibility study, you cannot design without plan, you cannot build without design, so that comes with cons and pros. And I'm going to drink myself a bit of water. Thank you. So yeah, as the industry evolved throughout the time, different frameworks appeared. For instance, Scrum, 1986. And here, again, engineers, software developers, not designers, by the way, thought about a way of working that actually suited them better. Instead of having, chunks of work on stages, they thought about creating more manageable chunks of work that they then divide on sprints, and they produce and deliver in a more, let's say, quick or manageable way. I guess software development, you all know Scrum. I'm pretty sure that on your technical team, your tech team use it. We do use it at Oaks Lab. Is the preferable framework for the tech team. But definitely there is some friction when it comes to design, because as you will see, like, design takes time, we know it, and usually a sprint or two is not enough to do our craft. By the way, well, anyways, design thinking. So 1991, created by the way, a private company, IDEO. I don't know if you ever saw this representation of the process. Is known as two diamonds. You diverge, then converge to the problem definition. You diverge to converge to the solution. The idea is not to focus on delivery, it's to focus on value. It's to focus on looking for something that brings value to the users in this case. There is a fun fact about this, that's right. Because the creator, this private company I was telling you, IDEO, for those who didn't know, David Kelly, was the guy who actually designed the first mouse for Apple Macintosh Lisa in 1980. I bumped into this fun fact and thought to share it. It was pretty cool to know, that like known people out there are creating these kind of things. Another framework, this is the last one, created by Google, Design Sprint, is basically a hybrid in between Scrum and design thinking. So I could imagine here one diamond, and the design could be like the problem definition, another diamond until the solution. Then you validate to test, you test, validate, and you get the solution. Yeah, I was running this with some of my colleagues and actually found out that this is great in the theory. When you get to the practice, it's very difficult to take advantage out of this particular way of working, at least on agencies, right? But anyways, good to know, good to keep in mind, and let's hope for the best in the future. This is introduction. Now I'm gonna go even a little bit deeper. Again, how many people heard about the Agile Manifesto? Okay, I'm not gonna discover anything here, but it's great, by the way, because I was working on Agile. I guess that most of you were working on Agile without even knowing that there was a manifesto about it. At least people that work for agencies. We got to work Agile because it's the client demand. It's not because there is a manifesto behind it. Anyways, I thought to share it because the fun fact that, again, 17 engineers on a ski trip thinking about their life and how awful was their day-to-day work, they came up with those 4 key values and another 12 principles. Just wanted to reflect a little bit on these 4 and you know, think about the frustration, right? Processes and tools, comprehensive documentation, contract negotiation, following a plan. I think it's cool to keep those in mind as something that we should avoid at some point and just being flexible, like go with the flow, I guess. Just for you to know, there are other manifestos out there. I don't know if you knew this, but there is also an Agile Marketing Manifesto and also an Agile Design Manifesto, which I couldn't find the date. That means that the industry is alive, 2012. And there is still a lot to do if we all add something to that, and sharing is caring, right? So according to this, I thought to share with you some of the initiatives that we do run at Oaks Lab, which I find pretty cool, and I really hope that they will bring some value as these manifestos did. I'm talking about the Oaks Lab way. The Oaks Lab way is a compilation of documentation, because we all create documentation, right, for every project we create on development agencies, but usually gets lost in the shuffle. Like, why? So with the Oaks Lab way, we actually make some meaning out of it. The idea, which is a work in progress, is to share this documentation on an open source platform, so everyone can learn from our findings through documentation. Meaning, I'm a founder who does not have a budget. I go through the Oaks Lab way and I see how Oaks Lab way conducted usability testing. Or I go through the Oaks Lab way and I see how they conducted competitor analysis. So this is one of the initiatives that Oaks Lab is trying to get out there. Sharing is caring. And you know, be proud of it. I'm personally proud of this, and that is the reason why I'm kind of selling it to you now. I hope you keep this in mind and stay tuned, because we are working hard to make this happen. Let's face it, this was in the kind of description of this talk. We go through a lot of challenges. The theory is great, the documentation is perfect, suitable, but then you get to the day-to-day, and you just have to be agile. In this part of the talk, I'm going to water myself again. So in this part of the talk, I'm going to be talking about some challenges that I have found in my career working for agencies, more especially now in the product field, let's say. Every project is different. The structure of this, by the way, is challenge and some solutions, how we tackle them at Oxlab, let's say. So that is the reality. Every project is different. We cannot just stick to the plan. And still, at Oaks, we found 4 typologies of product, or better said, of project. Well, it's project according to the stage of the product. The idea is to actually understanding what is the role of every other team member according to the stage of the product. Meaning, if I'm on a MVP, so this should be the team composition. If I'm on a versioning, the designer should be responsible of this. Being aware of this really helps the team to be more aligned on what is needed, and more especially designers to be like more proactive in terms of what I can do for an MVP in order to bring value. What can I do if I'm working on a versioning product in order to bring value? And that is kind of the message I wanna send today, like what we can do as a designers to bring value, because we do bring value. We are the core of the whole thing, if you think about it, even if we don't know how to code. Another challenge, Scrum teams mostly contain developers. This is me. But I actually take advantage of this. I always loved to be surrounded by engineers, by developers. I learn a lot from them, and I think that you should guys do too. The reason why is because, again, we are not like the frame. If you think about the Scrum, right? If you think about the Scrum, it's like, yeah, we do have sprints, we have to deliver, Scrum planning, and sprint backlog, and blah, blah, blah. But where can I see something that talks about usability or talks about research? I struggle to find that on a Scrum framework. For that reason, we do have this thing called Leading Trio, inspired by the Spotify model, where we really don't use Scrum, and I've got to be honest, at the beginning of the project. We do have the Leading Trio, PM, lead engineer, lead designer, and these 3 are accountable to actually scope out the project, make it happen, and be there for the whole duration of the project, making sure that things are done right. Takeaway from this is like, don't be afraid if you are the only designer in the room. Actually, speak up. That is the takeaway. We have like wider spectrum of tools to actually advocate for each of the 3 parties, right? Like user, business, tech team. So we are there, and we have to be there. Another challenge is exactly that. Designers lack technical knowledge. And because of that, we are not part of the equation most of the time. If we would be able to sit in the table with an engineer and talk about feasibility, knowing exactly what we are saying, that will be awesome. I think that it will give us a lot of credibility and the tools to play an even more active role in the product development process. These are some of the stuff that we run at Oxlab, workshops with the tech team, and really close collaboration. Little by little, we can do it at the company level, we can do it at the individual level, but it's something that I believe we all should do, really get to know tech and code. At least the stack that we use at our company, that is more than enough. Our craft takes time. This is a challenge, and once again, Scrum and other methodologies does not really take this into consideration. I'd say, again, we just have to speak up. It's not the same quality than quantity, and I always make that differentiation. If you want me to go fast, you are going to miss quality. If you want me to take my time, then you may get some quality out of it. So if we speak up about it and we are able to share this with the PM, with the stakeholder, wherever is the party that is kind of pushing for, hey, produce, please, you want me quality, you want me quantity. I cannot do both, our craft takes time. At Oaks, by the way, we do discovery first, or something that is called dual track agile. We name it differently, or we don't even name it, but we do it. Discovery first is definitely not the Scrum. It's just a stage of the product or the project where we just do discovery. Usually internally it takes us like 3 to 5 weeks. And it involves directly the leading three I was mentioning before. Usually the composition of the team is these three, or maybe one additional engineer just to support some initial activities that need to be done. But yeah, that is discovery from a high level. Dual track agile is actually Scrum, but on a a little bit forward than just Scrum. Basically, the tech team delivers as the designer actually discovered. That is really cool. I'm personally experienced that on a project nowadays. And it's really giving me a fun time, because I did enough at the beginning of the project to deliver stuff to the engineers that they can work. I basically unblocked them at the beginning of the project, enough for 2 sprints. And from them, I'm actually working ahead of them and with the stakeholder, thinking about, okay, where is the room for improvement? Should we spend some time researching about the navigation, or should we spend some time thinking about the onboarding? Like little features within the product that are to be discovered, are to be improved, in my opinion. So we work Scrum, but at the same time, we do discover. Yeah, this is it about challenges. I hope you enjoy this. I don't, because some challenges, but you go with it. And some learnings. This is just the end. I think I'm going a little bit over. There are three learnings that I wanted to share with you. Could sound vague, could sound like trivial, but I personally think it's important to keep in mind and work with them. Understand the project real needs. Since every project is different, we have to see, or to seek for what can I do now that will bring value to the project as a designer, I mean. Understanding that will really, enhance our presence in the project, and we will have like a voice that we don't most of the time. Another learning point, trivial, I know. Advocate for users, then for the team, don't forget the business. I would like to highlight the team, because this is about design loves engineering. And advocate for the team, meaning make sure that what you are doing is not going to be a pain in the ass for the engineer next to you. Check out feasibility. Have endless conversations over beer or just at work about, hey man, what can I do really for you to actually deliver this in time, like with some quality standards? What can I do really? That is the key point here. And obviously, don't forget the business. Regarding the business, because users, we all know we have to please them. But the business, just wanted to highlight something that crossed my mind, is the fact that as designers, we have the ability to speak their language. When a stakeholder or a client approach us, they come with a big idea, like, oh yeah, it will be nice to do this Airbnb portal, but you are the one who actually designs it and makes it, like, it's the first milestone. When they see it in the screen, they are, yeah, this is what we wanted. And this is us. It's not the PM, it's not the engineer, it's a designer who actually make that happen. So having that ability, I think that we should really take advantage of that. And speak up again, have a voice, and being in the table, the more the merrier. Some of the stuff that I personally do, and my colleagues as well, speak up, go ahead of the implementation, gain the trust of your stakeholders. Some learnings, again, get curious about engineering. This is the last one, I promise. Really, I encourage you, designers in the room, to download a course, just have conversations with your colleagues. Here is a very passive way to actually learn. Join their ceremonies if they have the time, and if you have the time and they are okay with that, sit down with them in the table and take some notes. Like, you're not going to understand anything, but maybe you can arrange a separate meeting and ask them what you meant by, I don't know, an array or a variable for this component. What do you mean? So understanding that will really enhance our profile as designers. I promise this was the last one. What no? Well, you can ask if you have any questions. But please, go ahead, speak up, and learn some code, because it's going to make us even better designers and better teams and better companies, after all. Yep. This is it. You can connect with me here or later, and thank you.
Thank you very much for the lovely presentation.
For sure.
Does anyone have any questions? Anyone? Right.
So, number one.
Uh-huh.
You're surprised.
I was expecting that, sorry.
Okay. What frameworks do you personally know?
Uh-huh.
Maybe before that, how did you learn all this?
Uh-huh.
At what point of time?
Uh-huh.
How often do you use it? Maybe pet projects or just no?
Yeah, I'm going to be super honest. Waterfall was definitely the framework that I've been using in agencies like since ever. I come from advertising, so Waterfall is the framework, is the common framework for advertising. Can I?
I meant like
got a
React
follow-up.
and
Go for it.
TypeScript and all that.
Sorry?
I meant like React, TypeScript and all that, like a JavaScript.
Technology, you mean?
Yeah.
Yes, because once I got to
Okay.
product development, then I realized that there is a framework called Waterfall. Then I connect the ideas, and then I learned Scrum, and now I can say that I know Scrum. I work on Scrum. Then I know that there are other frameworks out there. For instance, as I was mentioning, the dual track Agile, which actually is almost like design thinking, but it's not design thinking. It's basically coming from nothing to the problem definition to the solution. As I was saying in the presentation, like, yeah, there are frameworks, there are theories out there. You work with them, but you might not know them. Not because you study them, you are using them. You might be working like 13 years in the industry with no framework, but you are using a framework somehow, right? So answering your question, I was using Waterfall like since ever, most of the time without knowing it. Then Scrum when I got to product development, and then design thinking and design sprint are things that I hope I'll have the chance to work with at Oakslab, ideally. Yeah.
Okay. But you don't really code.
I do code. Yeah. Cool. Sure. Oh yeah, for sure. Oh shoot.
Any more questions, anyone?
Just more intimate like that.
Oh, right.
Thank you.
Thanks. So I have two questions.
Mhm.
One is like really specific. The other one is like more internal. So I was wondering, like with the first question, what would you do if you would be an external team and you would be working for a bigger team, which is dragging the project with Waterfall, but you're quite agile, so you're quite quick, but you can't really persuade the other team to respond quickly to whatever you do.
I see where you're going.
And then I'll get to.
Okay, so I'll prove them wrong. I mean, And you are referring like to very specific like frameworks, right, and ways of working, which might be more difficult to actually shift that situation because, I mean, we are talking about a framework, so it's not only you or the team, it's like many parties involved. So it's gonna be tough, but definitely try. I mean, if you are like really convinced about your idea, there are research out there. You can refer to existing documentation, to existing research. You can use, I don't know, examples from your experience perhaps. So in short, just speak up. This is what I was trying to share. Just speak up. If you have a strong feeling about it, just go all in for it.
But that brings me to the question, like, how can you, like, what if the team already knows about it, but there's other like players in the game, so you don't really have any other choice?
Yeah. This is a tough one because we are talking about frameworks, and shifting that mindset, I know it might be like super complicated. In a different context, I would say do some sort of experiment on your own. Like, again, try to prove them wrong, but through actually doing, not by saying and theory, just by doing. That worked for me in a different context. But I would say try. If you are convinced about it, just try. That could be my answer. However, I know that this is tough because, we're talking about framework, right?
I mean,
but,
I know. It's a tough question. So.
I was answering with different context, but definitely, explore, experiment, and improve, with actual like proofs.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So thank you for
Hope
that.
it helped.
And the second question that I have is related to the developers, because we know that like some of them might be like quite shy, quite timid. They don't really like get into the conversation. Like, how would you approach like the more like on a shy side developers who can't like really speak up, or like whenever you just ask them, they don't really get engaged into the conversation that much?
With engineers,
Yeah.
I gotta say I'm very lucky on those terms. But and actually I forgot to mention something, but you're designer, right?
Yeah.
Imagine that engineer approach you asking you for another serif font or the psychology of that blue. You would be, wow, I respect this guy, no? So you try to go with that mindset in a way that maybe you are saying bullshit to an engineer, and they will be like, do you have an idea? But you will open up the conversation, if you try to speak their language. So I think that is the key when it comes to that gap, like trying to speak their language.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sure.
Thanks. Any more questions? Anyone? Right.
So when you're saying to learn some code, to which extent do you mean?
Enough to be in the conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, to what extent? Like, I think that the best extent would be to be owner of your decision. So I'm doing this design, and I know 100% this is doable, and it's gonna cost this time. That would be like, you rock. To what extent? So it's up to each of us, I would say. For me, it's enough to have a conversation with an engineer and kind of, see things with the same mindset in a way. That is enough, I would say. Yeah, sure.
Thanks. Any more questions? Right. Perfect. So once again, big applause for Sergio.
Thank
from
you.
Oxlab.
Thank you. Thank you.
So that was the second and last presentation for today. But you are more than welcome to stay here, enjoy the beer, enjoy the food. I think there's some left. And Yeah, I think the space is open until 9, and if there will be some people from Applifting, which I believe there will, it will be even longer, so take it away. And thank you very much to you on the stream, and yeah, looking forward to you on the next meetups. So, bye.